It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome to the official 20th anniversary show of Eric and Gary as a radio team. This is Red Eye Radio. He's Gary, I'm Eric, and that's pretty much all we got.
It was July 15th, 2005. The little radio engine that could.
It was a hot summer in Texas. Or we'll do the Casey. I'll go full Casey Kasem on that. We get a letter from Gary who writes, "Dear Casey, why is Eric such a Nimrod?" Signed, Gary M. Well, Gary M., I think everybody knows. He was born that way.
I believe you've dealt with me longer than any woman has.
Get this. Let's see here. All right. Wow. My wife and I have been together 37 years. So you and I have been working as an on-air team for most of that.
We have done roughly, I think it's a little more than 4,500 shows together.
Yeah.
Roughly 22,500 hours.
Yeah. All but my oldest, you and I have been a radio team together for most of their lives. Except for my oldest. Isn't that insane? Yeah. That's insane. All of my grandchildren, because my first granddaughter was born a month before we started, roughly a month. She was born June 18th of that year. She turned 20 last month. Yeah, it's crazy. So none of my grandchildren really have known a time. They have no idea. Anyway. But they haven't been alive during a time, except for the one for about a month, the oldest, when we weren't a team. As they call you, Gary who? I'm not even sure they all know I'm on the radio. I honestly, I don't think they all really even know or care what I do.
Well, it's interesting because 43 years in radio total. Mm-hmm. And I believe I'm around 45,000 hours overall. Yeah. So I did music radio and talk radio.
Right.
And it's interesting that the vast majority of the conversations that I have with family and friends, and I would say 95% plus, you absolutely never bring up that I'm on the radio and have the podcast.
Yeah, no,
I don't. It's interesting how people just believe that. Well, how is it? No, nobody ever really brings it up much.
All of my closest buddies from Del Rio, my family, it doesn't come up unless they see something on a post or something on social media, and then in the group text, because we don't really communicate much on social media. My friends and I from Del Rio, I mean, I've known these guys since grade school. They're like brothers, and we don't really communicate on social media, but we have a text that goes on. It's been going on since I was 33, so 20-something years.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's really, I like it better that way, actually. Because now sometimes they'll say, well, what do you think? Like if we're around an election or something, hey, what do you think? Hey, what do you think? What do you think's going to happen here?
Yeah.
They'll mention, something. These guys are all conservatives. hardworking. A number of them former military, they're veterans. So they get it. But it's, it's like most people. You go on about your life, you really don't talk about your job much.
Work.
I have a niece. I have a couple of family members who are doctors, and one niece in particular. And she's been very, very helpful with my parents and her other grandparents, of course. But I've made it a point not to text her with pictures going, "Does this look infected?" You don't want to, because she's got to practice out in West Texas, very busy all the time, and she's got enough patience. She doesn't need me. If there were something, really serious going on, I might send her a question by email saying, "Hey, when you get time," but all of that really is centered around the care for our parents and her other grandparents. And so I don't really tap into it. But it is interesting sometimes when you're at a get-together and, or whether it's family or friends and people will bring up whatever is going on. I mean, when there's a hot topic, I mean, my son and I will have great conversations. My dad and I have these now infamous talk shows right there in his living room every time I go see him, and it's great. Or anytime I call him, and it's so we have those on a regular basis, almost daily. That's something where, and sometimes with Dad, not so much. Sometimes there's other things going on, and we just talk about life. But other than that, you and I have had this motto from the beginning, and it's everything for the show, which means a number of things. You want to save, your thoughts and everything else so that they'll be fresh as you present them on the air, and whether we're doing analysis or whatever we're doing. But also, there's sacrifices you have to make. And so, you got to miss out on certain things. Mother's Day, we always move that to Saturday. Father's Day often doesn't happen. I go see my dad on that Saturday. So, my kids will get around to it kind of one by one when it comes to me. But holidays and everything else are still, if there's a big story going on, it's still work, vacation, and everything else. But the good news is I love what I do. So it doesn't feel like work at all, even when I'm in my normal work practice.
We were going through it yesterday, just, the different things that have happened. And it wasn't all encompassing at all. We just brought up a couple things that we remember, some of the highlights and some of the lowlights. I mean, based on the news stories out there, the good news, the bad news, whatever. But we ended up yesterday by just saying, just how honored and privileged that we are to be doing this, 20 years together. I was I was talking to a couple of people the other day, and they were asking me about, is anybody left from my college class, in the media? And I said, well, there's actually two groups of people. The ones that I graduated from college with, my year and the year after. Those are the people that I knew. And probably there was roughly, I'm going to guess about 80 to 100 people that I knew. And only one is left in the media, from what I know, full time. Mm-hmm. There may be some people that dabble in it or do volunteer work, but everybody's out of it.
Yeah.
Most in radio, especially in music radio, because I started in music radio, everybody was really out by 40. They were just gone. Yeah. Very, very few people left. I transitioned to talk, not voluntarily. People know the story there. I never wanted to do talk radio. And it's the great advice that I can give out by that happening in my life is you don't know what you're going to like. You can be in your 30s, in your 40s, and not even know that, you know, a boss or someone will say, you need to do this and whatever, and you're like, you fight it like crazy, and you find out it's exactly what you should be doing in life. And I found that out, and I view that as an absolute blessing, in my life. You and I can't wait to get into work. Every day we leave work, we're laughing, we're joking. I mean, this is a great atmosphere, because we don't talk much about what goes on behind the scenes, because not much goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's really it. I mean, there is no, people ask all the time, what's really like, how do you and Eric get along? And it's just like, I don't know. It's
the show keeps going when we're off the air, all the way to walking to our cars.
Right. There is no sorry to bust any bubble, but there is no behind the scenes drama here. What you really get here is what we really are. We've got a great staff with Alan and Ron, and it's always behind the scenes, smiling, laughing, still discussing the issues. It's a lot of fun. And for me, I'll speak for me on this because I'm 10 years older than you. For me to continue to do this, and I turned 70 this year, and I never thought I'd be in radio this long, ever. Radio, podcasting, because we do both now. It's basically both. It has to be something that I love. And you and I had a conversation a couple of months ago, and I remember, why do you want to stay and continue doing this? Because we have no plans on retiring, just so people know. And I think I told you, I said, right now, we're walking out to the car, and I go, this is, we're laughing, we're joking. Where can there's no other job I've ever been able to, have that kind of attitude, not even think about it, have that kind of attitude, but never think about it until you start looking at maybe your own mortality or realize, oh, I'm not 30.
Yeah.
Because really my entire life in this business, in the back of your head, even though it doesn't dominate and even though you conquer it every day, because I've always said fear has been the greatest motivator, I've always in my head believed that I could be fired next week. And and so you're always in survival mode. There's never been a time when I've said, oh, okay, it's all set. We're just cool. I can just put it on cruise control and go ahead. And I still don't do that now, even though I know I'm not 30. I'm not 40. I don't have 30 years left in the career anymore. Or even thinking, can I last 30 years?
Right.
And
I think that's part of the luxury. I think part of the luxury is, number one, the experience, having the opportunity, but also having the experience, but then also having the age as an individual, saying, because this is all I've done since I was 18. I started this radio thing at 18. And I've done other part-time jobs and temporary jobs to make extra money, but I've never done anything less than full-time in radio. And I feel in that regard, you mentioned having friends and everything else that are all but one no longer in the business. Same thing here. One of the guys I started with is the only one still in radio, and he's a market manager actually for our company. He manages a cluster of stations in a town a couple hours away from here for our company, and he and I are very good friends, lots of respect. But others went on and did other things because it's not like a lot of industries. It's sometimes just not in your favor. I had a friend that was a good friend that was on Radio Disney. He was very talented. And at some point he said, you know what? I want to have a family life. I want to have regular hours. He's an entrepreneur. He owns an insurance agency, and he's done very well. I have another friend who has a global ad agency, and has done extremely well. And, you know, I look at individuals that have gone out and done all these things. I kind of look at it as this. I don't feel like the job is done. You know, because there's more every day to talk about. If I were at home, if let's say we did retire and I still have this mindset and my mind still works the way it works, that's not a good thing personally for me to be inside my own head without, you know, somewhere to go and have a discussion with people. And I'm grateful for an incredible audience, many of whom have been with us for a long time, and some incredible sponsors who, without them, without the audience, without the sponsors, we have zero reason to be here.
Yeah, the only person left in the media, there's nobody left in radio from what I graduated with, and then afterwards when I really could, because I got into radio full. I've never worked in radio part-time either. Mm-hmm. It's always been full-time, but I did get out. I got right out of college. I went into radio for a year and then got out for 5 years. That's when I machinist and, you know, steel worker and all that. Then I got back in '83, and I haven't been out since. But in the early '80s, when I got back in, there was also a group of people that I know. The last one retired just about a month ago from radio. So nobody I know is left in radio. Only one in TV, and that would be Dan Housley, who is a reporter and anchor for 7 News in Boston, Massachusetts. So, and you may remember him because remember when the Saranaoff brothers were running around?
Yeah, in Watertown.
And the police, and there was on the internet, it was going like crazy, the names of the suspects, and you and I couldn't verify it.
Right.
And we just said, we can't get it, and we just don't know. And it was, I remember it was Dan. Remember, we looked and I said, Eric, I know Dan. If he's not running with it yet, these aren't the names. And we were getting pressure, remember? We were getting bombarded. The names are out there. Why are you guys hiding it? It was the wrong. It was the wrong names.
I don't need to be first.
Right. So it's our 20th anniversary show.
Happy anniversary year.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. On a hot summer day, the last thing you want to feel is a blast of warm air when you turn on your air conditioning. A malfunctioning AC system will leave you uncomfortably shifting in your seat. Not to mention, it can affect the safety and performance of your entire vehicle and your productivity. Keep your AC system running smooth and your deliveries on schedule this summer with the following maintenance tip. Replace your cabin filters at least once a year, as dirty cabin filters are possibly the most common cause of AC system malfunction, or worse, failure. Replace your cabin filters more frequently if you operate in a dirty or humid environment.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We've been together 20 years.
20 years.
Now, Red Eye's like, you know, the name of the show may be different than when we first started, but you and I started working together July 15th, 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so. There's no donuts. There's no cake. There's no donuts. There's no candles.
I stopped to get donuts, and the donut case at the convenience store I stopped at was not desirable. It was. I actually left the house very hungry. I'm not hungry at all. What is it about flies?
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah, it was flies.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I probably won't be going back to that particular store anytime soon.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Celebrating here our 20th anniversary as co-hosts together. And, we were talking yesterday, and I said to you, might we have one of the longest news talk radio shows as co-host?
Yeah,
having
syndicated, nationally syndicated.
Nationally syndicated. And, I actually went to Google AI, and it said, yes, you have one of the longest. And I'm like, wow, I wonder if we're the longest. Because we started thinking, has it been any teen news talk radio show on a nationally syndicated level that has lasted 20 years? And we went, wow, I don't know of one.
I don't know of one.
We don't know. And that just, for us, that it's not, that's not bragging. It's like, we never thought about it until you hit the 20th anniversary. And it's like, wow. And, what a privilege and honor it is to cover it. But as you said, I think it's really important just to set, because we do it once in a while, we reset, just to let people know what we're about, because we know we have new listeners all the time. You and I, when we started working together, we had no idea whether we could work together or not. And we had never worked together. We had never discussed anything in politics before we started working together.
Right.
Not once.
Yeah. Right.
But we've always found it amazing. I know you were in Air Force, Brad, but a lot of your life you grew up on the southern border, and I grew up on the northern border.
Yeah, in fact, that's the reason we lived down there. San Antonio for Lackland Air Force Base, and then Laughlin Air Force Base, where my dad was stationed near Del Rio. So,
yep.
Yeah.
And, of course, I grew up in Buffalo, New York. Actually, the town of Tonawanda, which is the town of swift water, because it borders on the Niagara River, a few miles above Niagara Falls. So the water's going quite fast. I think it was the Iroquois Indians that named it Tonawanda.
Okay, all right.
I think that's the the history there. But you and I had the same philosophy. We're conservative libertarian. We believe in autonomy. We believe in individualism, and the same thing with our political views. And it's something that initially, early on, it's something that you always fight because people want to label you as something. And with the more tribal political society that we live in today, people expect you to jump aboard. Well, I was never that way when I first became a talk show host, because I never wanted to do this. And even though I had always have had, when I look back at it, even though I might not have in my head said, here's where I stand politically, I've always had the same beliefs. And the beliefs really, if I look, the beliefs that I have came from my mother, but probably primarily my father. How I believe today and how I go about my life. My mother was a huge influence, but politically it was my father that would sit down at the dinner table and bring up politics first, going all the way back to, as we talked yesterday, explaining the difference between the Soviet Union, communist society, because when we talk about commie, mayor, mandami, my dad at an early age wanted us to know the difference between the Soviet Union, because the Cold War was as big as it could get in the 60s when I was growing up, and a constitutional republic. And knowing that from the beginning, that the whole purpose was to ensure that power is not controlled that power does not grab a hold of a government in a huge way. That's when you started understanding the three branches of government, the push and pull that constantly is going on in there, which, again, relates to and we'll probably talk about more court cases today from the Supreme Court. That's how we judge, what goes on in the Supreme Court. But you and I have never had any problem. And sometimes members of our audience that believe we should always be Republican get upset with us. Today, I'll probably really compliment the president. The president has done incredibly great things. The president can also say stupid things. He can do things like we said yesterday when he talked about bringing, or the tweet from last week, the X post, excuse me, when he talked about, we need to get private investment. We need to now have, without question, not an implied, but an explicit guarantee that the taxpayer will cover and guarantee all the loans of Fannie and Freddie, and we need to have more loans and more private investment. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. As I've said, that's one of the worst things the president has come up with. And anybody who knows us and anybody who's intellectually honest and is a conservative knows what happened in 2008, 2009. And so we will criticize the president, as we did yesterday, for even talking about the Republican Party going in that direction of having the taxpayer guarantee bad loans, because that's what happens when you do it. We've been through it already.
We lived through it.
Yep. It started really with Jimmy Carter. You go back to 78, and then all the way through as they kept expanding it, the natural progression of what happens when you do that. And so we'll criticize the president for that, as we did yesterday. Today will be totally complimentary. When I sat there and I was looking at, and of course it's our 20th anniversary, so we're having problems with our computers, so I can't play the audio cut that I wanted to play. I saw Zelensky and him talking back and forth, and I went, wow, what a difference.
Yeah.
And when it comes to foreign policy and the president, getting the Patriot missile system now and other weaponry going, to Ukraine, and it's not the mineral deal, it's he got Europe to pay for it, is really just, it's incredible what the president has done in foreign policy for the most part. In fact, in this term, except for rhetorical statements, I didn't like it when he went after Zelensky to begin with. The fact of, the lead story in Fox News today is how the president came, I just saw Putin was great, and he's great. And Melania told him, well, he's bombing. I went, shut up. It doesn't sound good when you sound clueless. When you sit there and say, I have no idea what's really going on, that I came home. Did you read that article? You're shaking your head saying, you're doing so good. Shut up. And so, we'll criticize the president when we believe he deserves being criticized. But our audience, our listeners know there's nothing personal.
No, it can't be.
There's nothing personal.
I don't know the president personally.
Right. There's nothing personal in it. I simply look.
If he could do a third term, I'd tell you right now, I'd vote for him.
Yeah. I voted for him 3 times. Well, I don't know. Eric, what if the Democrats come up with a candidate that we might consider voting for?
Right now at the top of the list, it's Kamala. So that's a no. That's a no. How about no?
And so and that's how we've always done the show. We've been criticized at times, but what happens is when you get the response from listeners saying, I really hated you when you took that stand, but you ended up being right.
Yeah.
We don't care about being first. It's like when we got blasted that night when we were talking about the Sarnaoff brothers, we were talking about things that, stories that we remember when they were running through Massachusetts and shooting at police, and the police were going after them, and the wrong names came up, and our listeners were furious at us. Furious.
Yeah.
You guys
we got pounded on.
Oh, we got pounded. You guys are
email.
You guys. How come you guys aren't giving the names out? How come you're hiding,
trying to hide something?
Yeah, you're hiding something. You're hiding something.
And they were all wrong.
Yeah, they were wrong. It was the
there
wrong.
was even to a certain
names.
extent that was going on during the Las Vegas mass shooting. And
you're right. It
again,
was.
What you learn in doing this for so long is because there are a lot of breaking stories in the middle of the night, and you and I have covered our share of major breaking stories. And what you learn is the nature of those breaking stories the numbers, the details, the facts are going to change because you might have different agencies reporting different things, or early on they got duplicated reports or whatever it might be, and then later that day after after our show's over, then there might be an updated press conference and something like that, and the details then become clearer and clearer with time. So we're very clear I think it's important to be very clear in the moment where we're getting the information. The night that the Aurora, Colorado shooting, we broke that story. I had a TV station in Denver call our studio and ask, where are you getting this information from? And I had one line to repeat from online, and that's all I could repeat because it's all I knew. We actually got a call off the air by a cab driver. And he said, guys, I turn up my police radio when you guys are in a commercial break, and there's something going on at a movie theater here in Aurora. And there's, you may not have all the information, but I think you and I have done a pretty good job during covering that, because it honestly is out of respect for the listener. It has to be. I don't want to pretend like with that, and with, remember, Brian Ross at ABC, that was saying, well, there's a guy that's associated with the Tea Party that has the same name as the suspect, and he said that on the air.
I know.
That's highly irresponsible. I'm not trying to look like a great detective. I'm not trying to look like I've got inside sources.
Even though
I'm trying to be accurate.
Even though we get accused of that.
I actually do have inside sources that I've never used. I mean, my friend Raul Ortiz, when he was the chief of the Border Patrol, and I told him, at one point, well, if we want to do an interview, we can do an interview, right? Otherwise, I don't take information. He didn't share information, because that's what professionals do. But it's out of respect to the public. It's out of respect to any possible victims and their families. And I'm not looking to look like, I'm not trying to make this story about me. I don't want it to be about me. I want the truth to come out. I want it to be accurate. And I want the discussion to be, then once we get down the road and we find out more facts, then we can analyze and say, well, maybe this should happen, maybe that should happen, whatever. But I'm not looking to be, well, you heard it here first. Now, there are times when we did break, again, like the Aurora, Colorado shooting. I wasn't trying to break the news. Something came in. I found it online being reported from a local station there in Denver, and I reported what they were reporting. And that was my only goal, is to get our information, whatever information we might have, to the audience. But I'm not trying to look like I'm the hero or I'm the person who has the inside source or any of that. There are people in the media that do have those inside sources. If they want to go down that road and they want to do that, that's fine.
My point wasn't that we have inside sources. My point was we've been accused of, in a good way, that when we've made, and we don't make a lot of predictions at times where people say, you guys got a mole inside the White House or something. That happened a lot during the Biden administration, the first Trump administration, and then also Obama. People would call us and say, you guys got to have a mole inside there. How'd you know that? It was like, no,
but some of this is highly predictable too. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, but we've been doing it, for a minute. And when you have that experience, you learn how to predict better because you've been around those stories more, and you know what you have a pretty good idea about what they're going to do. So it's been great, and I'm grateful for a terrific audience who's had a lot of patience with us and been very loyal over the years.
Yeah, they have been. Thank you so much, because without the listeners, without our sponsors, we wouldn't be here.
Two guys talking in a room.
Yeah.
That's boring. Boring.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Okay, we begin year 21 together. Coming up following the top of the hour. Lots going on yesterday. We'll have our Kami Mandani update and a whole bunch more on the way.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Now, Eric, do you remember, I'm going to guess, the whole Russia collusion thing for us started on January 2nd of 2017.
Yeah, pretty much.
So come this January 2nd, that will be 9 years.
Wow.
So we're 8.5 years out of it.
Yeah.
Remember, like a year later, and then 2 years later, and then 3 years later, we would look at polling that say, okay, what do Democrats still believe, even though we knew at that point that everything was bogus about Russia collusion.
Right. Yeah.
And the numbers were still like 70%, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. Despite everything that we have gone through, the special counsel investigations, the media investigations, that what we know about Trump and Russia collusion, that it never happened. Yep. The fact is Hillary Clinton and the DNC set up Trump. They got hit by the Federal Elections Commission for using campaign money and saying it was for one. They were using it for one particular cause when the whole reason they were using it was to get opposition research.
Right. And the FEC didn't even slap her wrist. They slapped Bill's. Hey, that wasn't my fault. It was what? Small fine. That's all they ever did.
No, a couple $100,000.
Yeah, which is
small.
Chump
be a
change.
Small fine.
Yeah.
But for that, it was actually a serious fine because they viewed they knew what they did. But the point is, they created the dossier, which was all lies. Mm-hmm. The only party that we have evidence of who colluded with any Russian back in 2016 was the Hillary campaign, and we know that the person's name, Iggy Danchenko, who was given tens of thousands of dollars and in a drunk fest just came up with any type of outrageous allegation against Trump, which was then used in the dossier.
Yep.
Which was completely false. So you look at it, we're 8.5 years past it. We know for a fact that Donald Trump did not collude with the Russians to do anything for the 2016 election. Only the Hillary campaign and the DNC did. How many Democrats today still believe that Trump colluded with Russia to win the 2016 election? Rasmussen did a poll on it
Oh, good.
Of likely voters July 6th and 7th. How likely is it the Trump campaign colluded with the Russian government to win the 2016 election? Rasmussen reports asked likely voters July 6th and 7th. 60% of Democrats still say that it's very likely or somewhat likely that Trump colluded with the Russians. Completely false. It doesn't matter what the truth is to them. They don't care.
Well, it's not a lie if they believe it.
Yeah. 60% of Democrats say that it's very likely or somewhat likely. 38% very likely. 22% somewhat likely gets you to 60%. Only 29% of Democrats say that it is not very likely, and 29% said it is not very likely or not at all likely. 14% say not very likely. 15% of Democrats not at all likely. Are those the ones that voted for Trump? Overall, 42% of likely voters still say it's likely that Trump and Russia colluded in 2016, while a plurality, 49%, say it is unlikely. Among black voters, 57% say it's likely Russia collusion hoax was not a hoax, while 40% of whites and 44% of Hispanics say the same. On a more positive note, 57% said that those officials who were involved in the manipulation of intelligence to get Trump should be criminally prosecuted. Only 26% disagree.
Wow.
Among black voters, 55% want the bad guys prosecuted, as do 60% of Hispanics. When asked if what the intelligence community did to Trump is bigger than Watergate, 53% agreed, 34% strongly, 19% somewhat, while 38% disagreed, 27% strongly, and 11% somewhat. And then John Nolte did this in his article in Breitbart, writes, "The Democratic Party is beyond broken. It's a party compromised only of feelings, some of them optimistic. We're talking about feelings only of rage, entitlement, arrogance, a false sense of superiority, preening narcissism, and a refusal to acknowledge reality." Well, that seems bad enough to me. Here's the question I would ask. How many Americans know what actually happened in Watergate? If you're asked the question, was Russia collusion worse than Watergate? 53% agreed. Now, 38% disagreed. Do those 38% have any idea what Watergate is about? Does any young person understand what Watergate is about if you compare it to Russia collusion and the Russia collusion hoax? When we know roughly at any time when the poll is taken, roughly half of Americans can't tell you what the three branches of government are. Which, if you don't know what the three branches of government are, if you say the United States sucks and you don't know what the three branches of government are, then you don't even know what differentiates the United States from other countries. So does your opinion actually matter? So I look at that and you and I say they should qualify polls. They should qualify that one.
So there are roughly, according to Google AI, 59.3 million people aged 65 and older. Because if you're going to remember Watergate, you got to be old enough. Well,
Yeah.
I guess you could have learned about it through history. But living through something as it was covered, like many of us did, is that greater learning tool. But how many people also have selective memories of this group that fully either didn't care, don't understand, or for whatever reason just have the wrong storyline in terms of what happened at Watergate in their head. And it's been planted there just like the Russian collusion hoax.
Right. Well, I'd ask that question to the 38%. I would ask this question. I would say, is Watergate the major cause of climate change?
Is Watergate the problem with the drought in California?
Yes.
This, well, you and I have to do, look, we love the people over at Rasmussen Reports. We love the work, a lot of the work that Mark Mitchell has done, I think is critically important. And I think going forward, they're going to do even more. But you and I would be very expensive in terms of pollsters because we would start with name the 3 branches of government. But actually on this, it really is about the discussion. If you think about the Russian hoax and the spreading of, and the people that still believe it's true, that comes from what? That's conversations, that's the lies that the liberal activist media has been telling. In some cases, and I don't know how many stories there have been lately in the last, I don't know, year, from the New York Times or the Washington Post or others. Remember BuzzFeed. Remember the editor of BuzzFeed that said at the time, you know, we put the dossier up, but we put a disclaimer that said we can't really confirm that really any of this is true, but we're going to post it anyway. And then he said, that's the role we see our reporters in, basically activists. And we know that because, well, we can tell an activist when we see one. So, you know, it's not necessarily about, it is the ignorance that drives it, but also it is the will to lie and keep a lie going. A lie, the truth will be the truth, whether anybody is telling it or not. But a lie requires that a number of people have to keep it going. For it to live, then it has to have a group on something like this. You clearly have a group of people that are willing to repeat the lie. So whether it's at a dinner party, on social media, or on a post, or somewhere else via email, or if they happen to be a liberal activist in a newsroom, you keep the lie going. And this is the result of that. So my question would be, and you'll never know this because they're not going to tell you, well, I'm lying. I know it didn't happen, but I'm going to keep telling the lie anyway. You'll never hear, nobody's going to ever respond to a pollster that way. But I have to believe there are a number of people in that group that know it's not the truth. It doesn't matter. It hurts Trump. The lie is worth it. It's justified in their mind. I have no doubt that there are some. I can't quantify it. But given the history, recent history of everything regarding Trump, of course, that's the case. And then some are just willing to take the lie and run with it without doing their own homework.
Yeah,
willfully ignorant.
Yeah, I found that amazing that you can actually, that 8.5 years later, still 60% of Democrats believe the Russia collusion lie.
Yeah.
Because that's what it was. Not only was it a lie, but it was financed. The lie was created and financed by the Hillary Clinton campaign, who has never been cross-examined on that.
Yeah.
Has she?
No.
Nope.
No, she hasn't. Not
She's
at all.
Never done an interview, and the liberal media won't touch it, which, again, just proves our case that, they're political activists. They have no interest in journalism whatsoever.
Right.
Because you think about it, that, you look at the auto pen, you look at the censoring that was going on, you look at some of the scandals out there that we've talked about over the last few years. You look at the lawfare against Trump, and then you look at, it all began really with the Russia collusion hoax. These are some of the biggest political scandals in American history, and the media has no interest in covering it at all. None.
Yep, none.
Because they know it's not favorable to the side that they favor, and that's how they view it. And so this whole thing of, as we said after the Mueller report, and when you had even Republican politicians, we hope the media will look at this now and they will see that they need to be, and we'd say, shut up, stop it.
Yeah.
They're not journalists. Stop pretending they're journalists. They're political activists.
Right.
They don't care if they're wrong. You can't shame them. Journalists feel shame if they get a story wrong. Political activists move to throw out more propaganda and sit there and say, okay, were we successful in delaying something from going forward by the lies that we put forward by being political activists? Yep, okay, fine. We delayed it a week, 2 weeks, a year. Doesn't matter. That's our job. What's the next piece of propaganda that we can jump on?
Right.
866-98 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
It's a common road rumor that it's impossible for one-truck owner-operators and even carriers with just 2 or 3 trucks to get freight direct from the source, the shipper. Yet, hard-won experience from untold numbers of owner-operators with authority disproves the notion. Search your home base area and, later, frequent freight destinations to find all the manufacturers, distributors, and other shippers in the area. Once you get that list, ask yourself if those companies know who you are and what you do. If not, you're leaving opportunities on the table. Strive to own your backyard, to build a solid foundation for the business. For many a small fleet, it's the loads outbound from home that are the bread and butter. But you can take that same approach to the destination area, identifying shippers there and getting on the phone to make sure they know who you are and what you do. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Let me just very quickly go to the Politco here. I was looking at it, and I burst out laughing. Trump ties Ukraine aid to America first. And I've been getting some input back from people who are like, sorry, we need to investigate what went on with Epstein. Love Trump, but he's wrong on this one. I'm getting more of that every day. It's not dying down.
No, it's not. It isn't.
It's increasing. And when you look at, for example, and this is the question being asked, I did see over the last couple of days some of the influencers saying, okay, we all need to come together. We have more in common than we don't. And but I'm thinking over the last couple of weeks, and I'm thinking first off, Iran. Yeah. Iran, where it was like, what in the world's going on? And we're like, well, where have you been? He's not an isolationist.
Yeah.
And then the whole Epstein thing, and who knows where that's going to go. But then even yesterday, Trump ties Ukrainian aid to America first, and he said it. Mm-hmm. You know, it's about America first, and not us paying for it, but Europe, you know, taking their fair share. This is America first. I understand what he means by it.
Yeah,
it's not what the people that label themselves as MAGA America first want to hear, especially with Ukraine.
Yeah, right.
It's not where they were. Mm-hmm. Now, it'll be interesting to see where we go, where this all goes, with it. The president, again, saying yesterday that, or the lead story in Fox News, the top story in Fox News is how, Trump would go home, and he was saying it yesterday. I just, we're having problems with audio cuts on our computers today. Otherwise, I'd play it. But where he talked about Melania, going home to Melania. I had a great call with Putin. She goes, he's bombing orphanages or whatever. Mm-hmm. What? Like he didn't know. Like Melania is the one that kept me up to date on it. And I'm reading that. That's a lead story at Fox. I'm like, you shouldn't be saying that ever.
Right.
Ever.
Right. Yeah.
Because it sounds like you're clueless. I know he's not clueless on it.
Right.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Look, I really don't care about what the mega influencers care about. I really don't. The fact to they have a lack of credibility with me because of how they viewed Trump when it came to foreign policy as an isolationist. They were so far off in that and have been. And if you've been a long time listener to the show, we've said this because we have no idea where they're coming from on it. So I was just bringing up the politics of it and, what that might do to the Republican Party. And I don't know what that would be down the road or whether it will even matter a year from now if the economy booms. All I know is what Trump did yesterday was the correct thing to do. Mm-hmm. What he did with Iran was the correct thing to do. Unbelievable. What he did yesterday, and I'll see, I'm having problems with audio cuts on my computer today, but we'll see if we can get the thing that I wanted to get, which was him and Zelensky talking, because it was pretty amazing. But when you see Trump, when you see him talking about the fact of, NATO is going to pay for the Patriot missile system. We're in a trade relationship with Ukraine. Say whatever you will, but once you got into the trade agreement with Ukraine, you're tied together. Mm-hmm. And now he's bringing the world. Think about this. It's not just the United States. He's bringing the world into it, taking their share of their responsibility, more of a share. I won't say their share, more of a share of their responsibility for things that are happening in their side of the world. Right. No other president has been able to do that.
Right. Yeah, there's also what has changed since his first term. I mean, 180 degrees difference is the fact that foreign leaders are listening. They're responding. And there are some exceptions to that, but they're the ones you would expect that don't want to listen. We don't even need to mention Iran, Putin, and to a certain extent, Xi. But it depends on where you're going where Trump is going at the moment, because he's clearly been able to see, and I think the NATO thing really was a big deal in this regard. He has clearly been seen as a statesman now by other leaders who understand that he means business and that if he's going to get down to, he might throw something out there and then it never happens. But if it's the moment it's believed he's going to act on it, everybody sits up straight. And that's because when he decides to act on something, he'll do it. And they're not empty threats. In terms of international security and geopolitical issues overall, he's gained that respect from the international leaders. And I think there's two major reasons. Because, again, I think it goes back to part of his first term. And then when they put that together with what he has done so far, and we're not even 6 months into his second term, we're just days away from his 6-month second term anniversary. And when you think about that, and then you think about everything that Biden botched, I think all of that combined put everything into perspective for these world leaders, and they understand that not everything's going to be easy, and you may not like everything, but there are things that have to be done, and the U.S. isn't going to do it all for you. And those are the things, that's why when there's, a messaging, issue, whether it's the issue with the First Lady or what was it the other day, that he said, well, I don't know how that happens. And we're like, don't ever say that in front of anybody. Because we know that you do. We know that if you haven't learned it yet, you're about to learn it. I don't believe that he's just wandering around the White House in his robe like certain former presidents named Joe Biden, aimlessly. I don't even think Trump owns a robe. I don't think he.
By the way, you had me doing I wouldn't have mentioned it. You had me quickly doing theater of the mind. Trump walking around the White House in a robe.
I don't think he owns one. If he did, it's probably a pretty nice one. But he doesn't have. There is no in between time. You know what I'm saying? If he's coming out of the shower, he's putting the suit on and he's going to work after his daily 45 minutes of sleep that he gets. I don't believe that, again, that he's clueless on these major issues at all. And was it it was the Pentagon thing with Ukraine about how the story got mixed up of whether or not we're going to cut off aid to them or not.
Oh, yeah. And
that's what it was.
He said, I don't know how that happened. Perhaps you can tell me to the media. And it's like, don't say that.
Yeah.
Don't. And,
now, if you have to say something like, it boggles my mind, you shouldn't say that either. Like, I don't understand how anybody in their right mind would think they could do this and not pass it through me. But you handle that behind closed doors through Hegseth and his office. Mm-hmm. You're the commander-in-chief, but I do believe that he's fully in charge. And I don't think there's any real lack of awareness. It's the messaging.
Right.
Thing.
And I don't think there was any ever lack of awareness with Iran. I don't think there's any lack of awareness that he has with Putin. I just think at times he just talks off the top of his head because, of course, he knows about Putin. Mm-hmm. God, he's been president. He's already been president once. He knows exactly what Putin is about. Mm-hmm. We believe that just like he did with Iran. Oh, remember even before we went in there. Well, I'm sure Iran, wants to trade with the United States, and it's like, no, they don't. I mean, but he was just, in essence, trying to, as you negotiate. I actually do believe he was saying, look, I'm going to give them every chance, every chance possible, mm-hmm. And but he knows about Putin, so sometimes he has too much media exposure where it's like, okay, I got to fill in another 10 minutes here. Well, let me say this. Oops. Yeah. Don't do that. But I think that when he talked about this, I think what would really impact Russia, because of the sanctions we put on Russia, there's not a lot of trade going on right now. So 50% tariffs on Russia, that isn't the, 50-day, was it 50%? 100%. 100% 50 days from now.
Yeah.
Probably won't have that much of an effect. Secondary tariffs on oil would.
The secondary tariff, that's actually, I was telling you during a break, it's really the only thing I kind of focused on. I'm with you. All right, the impact directly on Russia on their tariffs, that's one thing. But using those tariffs, we've said, you carve Russia out as a pariah and tell any trade partner, you're doing business with them, you're not doing business with us. We're going to choke you out too. And that's the way it's going to work. So this is a very effective way to use tariffs. This right here could be the game changer. It depends on, again, to what extent it applies, and how people, how those other nations respond. But you're putting the pressure. Ultimately, the pressure goes back to the Kremlin, and that's exactly where you want to apply that pressure to change the mind of Vladimir Putin. Ultimately, will it work? Only time will tell. I can't tell you that, but this certainly is the best approach in the moment. I think the mining thing was a great approach, but I think this one, honestly, I was kind of surprised that this didn't happen earlier. This didn't happen sooner. Because we've been talking about this, and we're not the only ones that have been talking about this, that this would be your approach. You carve them out, you make them the pariah, you get Putin on the phone, you'll be standing alone in your own country because your own constituents and people of your country are not going to support you ultimately. You're going to be alone. We're going to carve you out as the pariah. And anybody who does business with you is going to pay. Then that's the pressure. Now, I don't know what it does. Does it change the heart and mind of a Vladimir Putin? Or does it put enough pressure internally on, again, to change everything? Not that he has any morale, going on in Russia.
No,
but it's any and all the above would be good.
What the goal actually is to keep extending the war with a more powerful Ukraine. Granted, their defensive weapons here, when you talk about the Patriot missile, but he's also supplying them with other things besides the Patriot missile. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole point. You're not, are you, what is NATO prepared to do? The goal, I'm going to guess, is extend the war because Ukraine has no choice.
No, they have to fight for their existence as long as Russia's in that place.
Russia has a choice. Mm-hmm. And I know Tucker Carlson believes that Russia is a great place to be and is just absolutely wonderful, and the streets are clean and the economy is just booming.
Look at the grocery stores.
Look at the grocery store. Remember that? Good God.
Yeah.
God, did he lose credibility
Seriously.
at that. But
now, I will say they are better than the grocery stores will be in New York City if Mamdani wins.
Or where you went to pick up the donuts last night.
Oh, my gosh.
And
thank goodness that's not a grocery store. Oof.
But I think the goal is to extend the war and keep putting the pressure, hopefully internally, on him. NATO is not going to be promoting offensive weapons to attack Moscow.
No.
Not that that Ukraine won't with drones or whatever, but it's to extend the war. Mm-hmm. Because there's no other choice. They won't come to the table. Mm-hmm. And so I never thought, Trump at times, his critics have said, well, he's a tool to Putin. I never bought that.
Yeah, no.
Like I never bought he was an isolationist. He at times negotiates in his own fashion, which may be unique.
Well, I think he's been very clear about not wanting to go to war, even in the days after the Iran bombing.
Well, I'm going back more to the first term, and
yeah, sure.
At times the over the top compliments. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, I think he does that in his mind. Again, it's tough to get into somebody's mind, but I think he does that as he did with Iran
to keep a door open,
to always keep that door open and not only do what he did, but get the world behind you. Think about this. Think about what other president could have done what he did with Iran, and the world was behind him. The Democrats had nothing. Here we are 2 weeks later, and the Democrats, that story is gone. Mm-hmm. Any criticism is gone. I don't know any other president on foreign policy that could have done that.
Because you play out your diplomacy to the point that you really can't afford to play it out no more, and the entire world sees it. It's the same thing that he did with North Korea. Did it work with North Korea? I can't tell you. But that's the idea. Look, if we have to do something, if we have to pull the trigger, it's only going to be after we've shown the entire world we were willing to keep the doors open and have a discussion, which is why you had most global leaders responding saying, this is on Iran. This is not on the U.S.
The only global leader that didn't agree with him was Mayor Mandani.
Yes, exactly. Hopefully we'll never be a global leader. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I exaggerated that a little bit.
I don't know.
Think?
It is New York City. I mean, it's pretty big.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I guess some inflation numbers supposed to be out later on today, huh?
Yeah. Let me get that in front of me here. All right. What are we looking at this week? Later today, CPI, core CPI. So inflation numbers will hit at 8:30 Eastern for June. And we'll see. And also the Empire State Manufacturing Survey. And that is a current survey for July will come out.
New GDP projections out also from yesterday. All that coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. So, as we talk about the economy, this is from CNBC. Remember how, 2 months ago, the Port of Los Angeles, for example, the ports were saying, we've got nothing coming in?
Yep.
Well, now that the tariffs have been delayed again on China, the Port of Los Angeles reported its best June ever for shipping container traffic, an increase in ocean freight that port executives described as a tariff whipsaw effect, with shippers racing to beat Trump's trade taxes, especially a mid-August deadline for tariffs on Chinese goods. A total of 892,000 20-foot equivalent units were processed at the Port of Los Angeles in June. Containers that were filled with holiday season and consumer products. The increase in containers was not a surprise after Trump lowered the 145% tariff on Chinese goods to 45%. The deadline for tariff negotiations with China is currently set for August 12th. An increase in U.S. manufacturing orders from China during the pause helped to fuel China's trade surplus of $114 billion last month. Look, when there's a lot of predictions, I'm reading here I was reading what do they call it? The Yale, the budget lab at Yale estimates. Okay. That's constantly changing because the tariffs are constantly changing about what's going on. You and I have always said, I mean, this is unprecedented, what we're seeing here. It's unprecedented, really, probably since Smoot-Hawley tariffs.
Yeah.
Back in the 1930s. You haven't seen anything like this. It's tough to figure out and project. I think it is. There's a lot of projections out there. I don't know which ones are accurate. I don't know if anybody knows which ones are accurate because everything's changing all the time. I will say this. We did mention that the Atlanta Fed number came out, and it was 2.6%. The blue chip consensus from Bloomberg came out 2.1% in the second quarter economic growth. The economic growth that the consensus has for the third quarter drops to 0.75%, while the fourth quarter 1.13%. Right now, the Bloomberg consensus, they call this the blue chip, is 0.87% growth for 2025. That's anemic growth. If that ends up being correct, that's horrible growth. As we've stated before, everybody picks and chooses what they want when it comes to tariffs.
Yep.
We don't. We don't pick and choose. As we've stated before, anytime you increase the cost of doing business, it hurts. It hurts in one of three ways or a combination of the three, which would be lower economic growth, higher prices, or job losses. Happens every time tariffs are put in, no matter what. You can see that the administration, and as we've said, with China, when you look at Russia, the secondary tariffs especially, totally justified. You can use them as a weapon. There's so much that we don't know as to what's going on. I know there were warnings yesterday from the critics of the president on tariffs about Asia and what's going on, over there, the tariffs are putting over there, because now you have those countries over there, Japan, Vietnam, whoever, looking to do trade with China and try to keep the United States out of it as much as possible.
Yeah.
Will that go? Can that go on? I mean, the danger of doing it is you can attempt to do it. I don't believe it would be fully successful, but it would hurt the United States if you say, look, they're unpredictable, let's shut them out. If the world decides, let's shut out the United States. We really have not had a trade agreement yet. There's been frameworks of trade agreements, but what's happening? Everybody's waiting, right?
Yep. I mean, that's it really is what the market approach has been. All right. So in terms of shipping, international shipping, you have to assume it's going to happen so that you get it in under the gun, right? But that doesn't mean that it will actually happen. Investors, on the other hand, look at it and say, all right, we've kind of been here before. We don't know if it's going to happen. We'll wait until the trigger is pulled. And it may hurt, but you don't want to jump out, because what you would miss, the whole FOMO effect, is, all right, we're going fear of missing out. For those that don't know, we're going to see maybe this massive boom if he comes out the day before the deadline and say, we've got a deal. That's happened before. And then the market goes great, and then you see a jump. You don't want to miss that ride on the upside. So I think the markets have been just waiting. Again, that's why you don't see, it's not a massive amount of movement that you've seen in recent days when he talked about tariffs, because, again, the market doesn't know what he's going to do. And they'll wait on that. Shipping can't wait because of the nature of shipping. The supply chain is far too involved. And also the retailers, that's where the demand is coming from. The shippers are bringing the retailers the orders, and they're looking at it like they did last year. This has happened before. It's happened for different reasons. We need to get it in before this happens to make sure that we don't have any shortage. That's for a retailer. That's the old death wobble game where it just starts going out from under you because your shelves are bare or you don't have enough in order to sell. And in the fourth quarter, you're going to need everything you can get. Also, something that's happening right now is back to school. Back to school is like, for all of us who are parents, you know the game. It's like the second Christmas. This is where you got to carve out money. It's not even, you got to do, your kids are going to need shoes. They're going to need uniforms. They're going to need school supplies. They start eating differently because they're eating away from home. All of these things go into play, and the economy starts ramping up about right now, up and through about Labor Day. And so that's what you're seeing here. And with those retailers, they really don't have a choice for anything that's coming in. Any of those imports, you really got to ramp that up because you have to assume it's going to happen. But for the market in general, I think it's the wait and see approach, and has been for at least a couple of months. And that's because things changed on the fly. You don't want to get out of the game, park your money, park your cash on the side, and then all of a sudden those same investments go through the roof when he announces, hey, we've got a deal. That's the whole fear of missing out thing. And nobody wants to be a part of that. You can take the small hit and jump out if indeed it looks like he's going to pull the trigger on long-term and greater tariffs. I do think, or I guess the question would be, I do wonder what the impact will be internationally with these secondary measures on Russia. Basically, we're going to put tariffs on anybody buying anything from Russia. If you're doing business with Russia, we're going to put the pressure on that way. There will be some effect. I think you're probably going to have nations saying, oh, look, if that's the case, the U.S. is going to have to up their oil supply to us. By the way, that's not a bad thing. And you're going to have to make, you're going to have to, and those trade routes are already established because of the long-term position that Russia has put every nation in that regard, every nation that buys oil from them.
I think the questions that I have for the administration and that I would have for the president is, what is the goal now of the tariffs?
Right.
And I say that because as soon as he reduced the tariffs, you and I when you look at what happened at the Port of Los Angeles, record, best June ever for imports into the United States at 45%. That means retailers, that means China, that means the importers, the exporters, the retailers. Everybody believes that Americans will still buy those products even with the 45% tariff.
Yeah.
So you just
and hopefully they'll buy the discounted version. The idea is they'll buy the non-tariff version, before the big tariffs kick in down the road, depending on which country you're talking about.
No, but this is the Laffer curve. Let's stick with China just for a moment here, just to make it simple. 45% tariff, 145%, nobody's going to buy the product. They didn't bother shipping it. You talked about, you're the one that came up with the concept of the Laffer curve. The tariff Laffer curve, as we call it. There is no official tariff Laffer curve, all right? It's something that we have said. I mean, there is. It's not called the tariff Laffer curve, though. It is.
It's the same principle applied.
It's right, and the
to what extent does it help without hurting?
Right, exactly, and that would be for tax. That would be for reducing taxes. If you reduce taxes, you get more revenue to the government up to a certain point. And so we had said, it looks like Trump is doing what we call the Laffer curve. Was let's have tariffs. It's not going to affect. There's not going to be shortages on the shelves. Because you can't ramp up, American industry can't ramp up what China does for years. And so you ask, what's the goal? Well, the goal is to have everything made in America. That's not going to happen.
Protectionism. Yeah.
Well, look, the Trump cell phone made in China, and he came up with it during all of this. You lose credibility when you do that, because they said, "Oh, it's going to be made in the United States." Well, not now. Down the road, it will be made in the United States, and as everybody said, not at that price. You can't sell it at that price. It's impossible to do that. And it's like, oh, okay, well, then they're going to make it in China. Or all the parts would be made in China or around the world and assembled in India or whatever. You're not going to assemble it for that kind of price in the United States. It's just not going to happen. And that just looked bad when that came out. And then you notice you haven't heard a lot of publicity on that phone, have you?
No.
Not as much as you heard for the first couple of days. The problem is what they are promoting. What are they promoting right now? You don't hear them talking about a massive increase in the GDP like they were a month ago when the Atlanta Fed was at 4.6. Remember that when you had Besson coming out every day and saying, well, with 4.6% economic growth, we're not going to have any problems whatsoever. We're going to have the big, this is in reference to the big, beautiful bill. The big, beautiful bill, we're going to balance the budget because we're going to have incredible, look at this growth, 4.6%. He was talking as if that was the growth.
Which should never be projected out based on the GDP now forecast.
Right,
ever.
right. And they're not, as you notice, they're not projecting out the 2.6% growth or the 2.1% growth for the second quarter. They've stopped promoting that. So what are they promoting? What are they promoting as the success of the tariffs? The money that the government is bringing in. And if it's $300 billion, remember, we had estimated, the first estimate was if they stuck at the, well, I think what was it, the 45%? What I can't remember what it was at the beginning, but we were exactly where they were, that they were expecting if they did the tariffs, and it was before the 145%, but it's if you had tariffs all the way across the world at a certain percentage, it was roughly $700 to $800 billion a year, because they were talking about the fact that we can get rid of the income tax and we can pay for it with tariffs, and we're like, no, you can't. It's impossible. And we came up with the figure of $700 to $800 billion, and they did too. They, after we came up with that, so did the administration. They verified which was easy to do. All you had to do was take total trade with the world and multiply it times the tariffs. That was easy.
Yeah.
What the percentage of the tariffs were, and it was very easy to come up with that number, and it was verified by the numbers that the administration came up with, which was $700 to $800 billion. Now they're talking about $300 billion.
Yeah.
Well, that $300 billion is taxes being paid by the American public. I saw the other day you had still some people saying, no, the exporter pays the tariff. No, the importer pays the tariff. The administration doesn't even argue that anymore. They may come out once in a while and say that, but then they've got to back off on it. The importer pays it. The American public has been charged whatever it is, the $100 billion over the last few months. The American consumer has paid that tax. If it's $300 billion, as they say, you simply take the 127 million households, because you've seen that number, and it comes out anywhere they're talking about $2,500 per household. It will cost America a year for the tariffs. Now, what is your goal? Because you could say the next point would be, yes, but it's worth it if you can do what? What's the goal?
Yeah,
because
is it protectionism? Is it, what are you trying to do? Is it a revenue builder?
Right. What I don't know, because once he took off, when he was at the 145%, nothing was being shipped from China. Well, you should have stayed there, because the goal, right, is to have America build the product. Why would you lower it to 45% when then the best month ever for the Port of Los Angeles from stuff from China? Why would you do that?
Right.
We'll talk more coming up, 866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So, yeah, the administration, I mean, every single time I've seen them promote what's going on with tariffs, it's simply what they're raising.
Right.
As if it's this is a new tax. Mm-hmm. Now, the president has promoted it before. Now, when they came out and initially said that we could replace the income tax with, remember the tariff benefit? The tariff checks, that never came. Remember the Doge checks, and there were the tariff checks. It's like, sorry, you're not going to get any. And the one thing they're not talking about is once you put that burden, if it's $300 billion a year, that's $300 billion a year coming out of the economy.
Yeah, I mean,
which means,
that's ultimately the economy pays.
Right. You heard economic growth.
Which is a negative impact on the consumer.
Right. And so what is the goal? As we said, what is the goal of the administration? What are they why are they doing what they're doing? Before it was about, we're going to bring all jobs back to the United States. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're going to have trade agreements, but the trade agreements will favor that the United States will have permanent tariffs on things coming into this country. Well, does that mean then is your goal to get the revenue? Is your goal just to have the amount of tariffs where you can raise revenue, but still keep the imports coming in that Americans will buy? Is it to have everything produced in America? I don't know by what they're promoting right now what the goal of the tariffs are. Because if the goal was to produce things in America, you would not have dropped those tariffs from 145% to 45%. Because then if you come to an agreement to have 20% with China, well, it's a tax on the American public, and Chinese goods are still being imported into America.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. Inflation numbers coming out a little bit later on. We're looking at some of the other economic predictions. And again, they're all predictions. We'll see which ones are closest. But it's all you have to deal with. And when the predictions are positive, the administration uses it. So if you use it when they're positive, don't be surprised when other people have their own projections that may differ from yours.
Yeah.
We look at, you saw Bessent was out there the other day talking about the fact, promises kept. We balanced the budget. We had a surplus for 1 month. Mm-hmm. Well, that's because June is always one of the biggest months because that's one of the quarterly months where people pay their estimated taxes.
Right.
As we all know. So it's happened, but didn't happen a lot during the Biden administration because they were spending like crazy. But it's happened many times before that June actually has a surplus and other months actually have a surplus. It is what you eventually will have for the entire year, and the entire year is still expected to be $2 to $3 trillion. In debt. So the administration is looking for any short-term victory. And the short-term victories have been, okay, we had a surplus this month and we're bringing in money. You're not hearing the manufacturing base is increasing.
Right.
Because in the last 2 weeks ago when the numbers came in, as we had for you, and they talked about the 147,000 jobs as being absolutely incredible, as when you broke down those jobs, where the jobs were in the United States, 80,000 of those jobs were local and state government jobs of the 147,000. Mm-hmm. You also had, if you took into effect healthcare and government jobs, and healthcare really relies, a ton of healthcare relies on what? Government spending. You had roughly about 120,000 of those 137,000 jobs. It's where they were. What was manufacturing for the last month? Minus 7,000. And that would have been That would have been for June. And so when you see what's going on, back and forth with the with the tariffs and the extension of the tariffs, one thing that you can't even take into consideration, I don't even know how you would process it. So when I'm going to throw these numbers at you, I don't know whether these projections from the Yale Budget Lab will end up being close or not, but we'll keep this and tell you at the end of the year whether they are or not. Whether the GDP predictions are there, we'll tell you whether they are legit or not. Whether the congressional figures for economic growth or the White House's projections of numbers for economic growth, that they say, oh, no, we'll be able to actually seriously cut if we have over 3% growth. We'll tell you whether we have 3% growth or not. All these projections that the vast majority of the time that I have analyzed them in my 43 years in this business is they always overproject what economic growth will be. We'll see whether that's still the case or not. But from the Yale lab, and this is economic growth in the United States, and this is because of the tariffs as they were a couple of weeks ago, the latest round, okay, where they are now. And they've had to change. They update the lab constantly because the tariff amounts change constantly.
Right.
Economic growth in the United States will be 0.9% lower in 2025 than it otherwise would have been. That's absent new tariffs or foreign retaliation. They don't consider foreign retaliation in here. In the long run, the American economy will be persistently 0.5%, 0.5% smaller than it would be. The unemployment rate by the end of 2025 will be 0.5% higher, with 641,000 fewer Americans being employed. U.S. exports will be at 17.5% lower than they otherwise would be. Although long run, this is over 10 years, U.S. manufacturing output will be 2.5% greater. Advanced manufacturing will actually decline by 2.9% as production shifts towards non-advanced durable goods. The expansion of manufacturing also crowds out other sections of the economy. Construction will contract by 4.1%. Agriculture, 0.8%. Mining and extraction by 1.5%. Though tariffs, in effect, would raise nearly $3 trillion in revenue over 10 years, their economic effects would cost the federal government $487 billion, bringing dynamic revenues down to $2.5 trillion. Customers face higher increases in clothing and textile prices in the short run. Prices increase 44% for leather products, 40% for apparel, 21% for textiles. After substitution and global supply shifts in the long run, prices remain 20%, 18%, and 11% higher. Food prices rise 4.1% in the short run and stayed 3.3% higher in the long run. Fresh produce is initially 7% more expensive while stabilizing at 3.9% higher. Motor vehicle prices rise 14.1% in the short run and 10.3% in the long run, the equivalent of an additional $6,800 and $4,900 respectively to the price of an average 2024 new car. Now, remember, these are from the tariffs that are in effect right now, not from the future. That's what they have right now. So, like I said, we'll see. Yeah. We'll see what happens in it. But our point is, if you have low economic growth, if that happens, you have to ask the question, and you're having a decrease in jobs. Mm-hmm. If manufacturing goes down, because as we said, the effect of the tariffs, for example, and we saw it during the Bush tariffs, we saw it in the first term of the steel and aluminum tariffs with Trump, and the Labor Department had the numbers out there that, yeah, the steel plants did great because they could sell steel more expensive. Every American business that used that steel had to pay more. Our point has always been not that tariffs cannot be used as a weapon for unfair trading practices or war. And in cases where they're used for that, we're fully for it. But as we've said from the very, very beginning, you're not going to get rid of the income tax, which the administration said they believed we would be able to. They've dropped that now completely. When it comes to manufacturing output in the United States, that was the initial goal, right? Yep, that was the initial goal of the administration. You're not going to get there if you don't put massive tariffs on. If your goal, forget about what you think about whether your tariffs are good or not. Oh, my gosh. I just sound like Obama there. But if your goal is to get the manufacturing base going, you get the manufacturing base going by what happened last month. Trump dropped the tariffs on China to 45%, busiest month ever for the Port of Los Angeles, which means Chinese manufacturers and retailers and importers in the United States believe that they can still sell a massive amount of Chinese products in the United States with a 45% tariff.
Yeah.
Well, if you basically in May, the number was way, way lower, what was being imported. Well, that's the only way that you could get American businesses going is the fact that there's supply and demand. You have no supply. There's a demand for these products. Even if they're more expensive, that's where the American manufacturer would come in, right?
Well, that's something that I've talked about and mentioned. You know that the market is going to respond, that basically the consuming market is going to, the consuming public is going to respond. You just don't know how. It really is interesting. You could say, all right, what are you willing to go without? And people would answer in a survey. But it means nothing when you look at the actual spending habits of the consuming public in any given scenario. In this case, after the impact of any tariff, right? So one thing we know that people don't want to go without, and that is a cell phone. However, are they willing to go without upgrading their cell phone? Have they been in a program where they're upgrading their cell phone every 24 months? Have they been, and you don't know, you won't see that, quite frankly, until it's in the rear view. There will be a response. You just don't know what they're willing to pay for and what they're not willing to pay for. The big box stores have talked about in the last couple of months. Look, at some point we can be as competitive as possible, because we need to do that in our competition with each other in the retail sector. Well, but beyond that, we're going to have to pass this on to the consumer at some point. And that's what they started, the CEOs of these big box stores started warning about that, I don't know, 6-8 weeks ago. And that's what you'll see. But again, it depends on where the tariffs actually land. There are things that just won't. If it ended up being a larger tariff, there are things that just won't be as available. If you keep that going for a long time, there will be that point at which the consumer will say, yeah, I'm not willing to pay for that anymore.
Well, the interesting thing is, reading this from CNBC, what the port said was imports had slowed significantly in May and continued to drop through the first half of June. It was the best month ever. And the first half of the month, it was trending lower. And when he said, okay, we're going to delay it again till middle of August, immediately shipping skyrocketed.
Let's get it in before before whatever in August is going to happen.
Right.
Because those are the things.
But it also means they believe they can dominate the market even with a 45% tariff.
Well, Yes, that, and you also have to hedge against what might be coming, because that's the thing with Trump. You don't know where it's going. Tomorrow he could say 200% tariff on China, Russia, anybody who deals with Russia, and you really don't know where it's going. And so retailers really don't, because this demand is based on this shipping is based on what retailers need on their shelf that they believe people won't go without at this point. By the way, if they get that bet wrong, they're screwed with a lot of inventory.
Oh no, yeah, they are.
And that's the thing, because nobody can tell you.
No, you don't know.
Look, we won't go with. I think it's safe to say we won't go without a cell phone. But does it mean holding our old cell phone longer? Quite possibly. Does it mean, all right, I'm not going to, upgrade to the latest whatever? And yeah, quite possibly. The same with automobiles.
I think the one big thing is if we had much more of a tariff society, how will AI affect it all? And we asked this question way back then. If you have a massive increase in productivity of what you can accomplish manufacturing in the United States, then again, we don't, as Mike Rowe said, we don't have the labor force to build the thousands of AI centers we need, and we don't have the electricity. So,
yeah,
unless we get off our posteriors.
Yeah, exactly.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So interested to see what the inflation numbers will be coming up here. Plus the GDP, which will be for the second quarter in another 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I think it's September. I think it's September. July 30th.
Year over year CPI median forecast right now is at 2.7. And if it is right on that median forecast, that's up from 2.4 the month before. We'll see if it lands right spot on or lower or higher here at 8:30 Eastern. Core CPI 0.3 month over month, and then year over year core CPI is at 3.0 on the median forecast, as opposed to where it landed last month at 2.8. So we'll see.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Well, we are today celebrating our 20th anniversary together.
If we had graphics like television, it's radio, so we don't get graphics. But if we had graphics, it would be a big 20, with the golden ribbon through it in the corner.
Yes.
Celebrating 20 years of excellence in broadcasting. Oh, I guess we can't say that.
And there would be prominent people doing little things saying, oh, hello, Eric and Gary. Great 20 years. And nobody wanted to do that.
Listen, I want to say just to Eric and Gary, whoever they are, is probably pretty good if you've been around for 20 years. 20 years is just a short period of time if you compare how long I've been a bodybuilding champion and also an actor and also, working with the maid and everything, all of that. You've compared.
And a guest on The View a couple of
I've
weeks
been
ago.
a guest on The View,
Yeah,
sitting there with all the loud noise going on and the big hair and the makeup. I thought I was at a Kiss concert. Play Detroit Rock City. I just want to say happy anniversary to Eric and Gary. And just, I hope you do very well in this, world. We're crazy.
We are the Rush of talk radio.
Yes, exactly.
We don't mean Rush Limbaugh.
No,
we mean
the band
Rush.
Yeah.
Yes.
Without all that brilliance.
Yes.
So annoying.
And the other Rush too.
Yeah, exactly. Both of them on both fronts. Yeah, we don't need all that brilliance. See, there's hope in the world, boys and girls. If Eric and Gary could do this for 20 years, you're probably doomed.
Yeah, if Eric and Gary can last for 20 years,
well, it proves
as
that,
nationally syndicated talk show host, who can't succeed in this business?
Well, it proves one thing. Occasionally, somebody wins the lottery. So
there are programs out there that last a long time that nobody pays attention to.
It's true.
What?
That there are a lot of programs out. I actually was thinking about that, like daytime talk shows, television talk shows. Oh, The View. But some of those that don't get the same level of audience, I don't even know what their ratings are at The View. I just assumed it was bigger coming out of Good Morning America on ABC.
I will guarantee. I've never looked at their ratings. I will guarantee, demographically, they are not strong in adult males.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm guessing. But like Kelly Clarkson, who I think is enormously talented as a singer. If you would have said to me before she started, "Hey, she's going to do a daytime talk show," in fact, I probably did at the time and said, "Oh, really?" But she's actually had a fairly lengthy career as a daytime television talk show. Ellen, that probably morphed into something. I know she said at one point here lately that the whole dancing on her way out wasn't her idea, and it got to be annoying because she doesn't really dance, and we can tell. But things this is why I could never be a television programmer. I have no idea what people are going to watch. The View is still on the air.
Well,
case in point.
I thought about this yesterday because YouTube without the commercials is wonderful.
Oh,
and when I'm doing show prep, I'll go to Forbes, which is a great resource for audio cuts.
Right.
I'll go to Forbes, and occasionally I'll just turn it on, and basically it goes in shuffle. Whatever comes up, it plays one thing, goes to the next thing.
Yeah.
It could be music. If it's music, normally it sticks to music, but if it shifts off to something else, then it does. I mean, I think the algorithm looks at what I'm looking at, whatever. Well, all of a sudden, the last couple of days, I had known about the show, never watched it, and I thought to myself, and it wasn't full shows; these are just the clips of the shows. And you know something? I don't know if I have to watch TV shows any longer.
You could just watch the best moments.
They have the clip. I'm telling you, the clips are
it's like sports highlights.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was I think it originated on Netflix, Suits.
Oh, my wife loves that show. They were gonna bring it back, or they are bringing it back. I didn't keep. It was on USA Network.
Was it? Oh, yes, it was on USA first. That's right. It was
and
on USA.
I think it's on.
Yeah.
Probably streaming on their app which is Peacock. It would fall under NBC.
Yeah, they say you can rent it on. And I looked. I go. I'd like to maybe. And it was like $23 a year. I'm like, what's the cost of getting Netflix for a year? Netflix was like $79, and I went, I might get Netflix for a year to watch all this stuff. But I'm watching the clips of it, and I'm like, wow, that one woman really looks like Meghan Markle. Really. It is.
It's Meghan Markle.
It was her.
Yeah, she was on Suits, I
had no idea. And I hated it because after I watched, and this is like the clips I probably watched. This is over a period of a couple of days. It just kept coming up.
Right.
I probably watched an hour of clips, and she was probably in a good 15, 20 minutes of the clips.
Yeah.
And without me even recognizing who it was, and that sort of looks like her. I go, she's a pretty good actor. Pretty good.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my God, it's Meghan Markle. She was really good at it.
I had seen a couple episodes thanks to my wife walking in the room while she's watching it or something, or she pulls it up, and then I just kind of latch on and watch, and so I've watched parts of a couple of episodes here and there, and I've seen her, and you really don't put her in that role. You don't put her in the same Prince Harry thing. It's like you don't think of her personal life when you're watching.
I did. Well, I didn't know who it was for a while. I just went, she looks familiar. Who does she look like? Probably went, it looks like Meghan Markle.
My wife had to remind me at some point. Oh yeah, that's remember she was on Suits, and I was like, okay, I think I saw a clip or something, a moment here and there.
Well, I started thinking, because I've seen back and forth now. Well, the Superman movie isn't woke. Well, it is woke. I don't care. I won't see it. I'll be doing my review on the latest Superman movie 10 years from now.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I remember we would have fun and we would do Gary's movie review for movies 7 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
And same thing with TV stuff. And I'm thinking to myself,
oh, by the way, coming up later, you're going to review Titanic.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah. So,
but I had said a couple weeks ago, because I'd really never, until about 6 months ago, ever watched Law and Order: Criminal Intent.
Oh, yeah. That's to me, that's the best one.
Some of the best.
It's my favorite one because it gets very. It gets very involved.
Some of the best writing on that on TV was that show.
And D'Onofrio.
On D'Onofrio was. I thought they were all good.
Yeah.
I mean, when
Chris
Noth came back, and even
I think all of those.
I know
Law
the
and
ratings
Order
dropped
shows
with what's the guy? I can't think of the guy's name. He was in Independence Day. Oh, he was Criminal Intent. I just can't think of his name.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll think of it in a minute.
Oh, I just can't. It's just complete mind blank.
Yeah.
But the ratings dropped when he was on, and D'Onofrio came back for like a year, and I thought he was really good, and I thought every single one of the women that were detectives were stellar.
Yeah.
Even Miss Pasternak from 2.5 Men. I don't even know her name. I can't even think of it. Don't know. But when I watch Suits, and then the other one that has been coming up is the series Lincoln Lawyer.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely incredible. Suits had fantastic writing. Now, every one of those lawyers should be in jail.
Well,
but not talking about the reality of it, talking about the writing of it. The writing was whether it's realistic or not, I could care less. I mean, I don't. You go to have suspense or whatever, but the writing on those shows, and maybe the Lincoln Lawyer might have been a little bit more realistic because it was just an individual lawyer.
Jeff Goldblum is who you were thinking of. That came on to Criminal Intent.
Yeah, I thought he was good on it.
Yeah, I like Jeff Goldblum.
But I love, and I think I don't even know their names, but tremendous the women that portrayed the detectives as absolutely obsessed with getting to the truth.
Yeah.
And they projected that obsession, which probably does exist from detectives who, what major case, murder, whatever, you become quite passionate and probably obsessed.
Yeah.
Of getting that. And I thought it was maybe a little bit over the top at times, but the acting was so entertaining and so intense. It kept me there. And I'm talking about Criminal Intent.
Yeah.
But D'Onofrio was the best, though. He was the stuff he did with the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well,
and you're
and then
What a screwed up.
And then some of the interrogation scenes.
Oh, I know.
It's like, okay, you're about to sit down and watch somebody master something as a detective, because you're in the mindset of, I'm watching these characters. But if you step back from that even for a second, you're going, okay, in order to pull that off, that's a pretty incredible feat.
And how many times did they have to rewrite that stuff? How many times did they get it right the first time? You just wonder, because some of it, you look at it, I was looking at that's great writing. And I know that, I think Seinfeld even said one time, not that they didn't have great writers, but it was John O'Hurley that said, I realized that Seinfeld wasn't a funny show, that they didn't tell jokes. The funny thing about Seinfeld was every character played it as if they were serious.
Like that's who they were.
That's who they were. That's
a great
point.
It
wasn't a setup line, whatever.
Right.
And he goes, so the writing was good. He goes, but that's not what made it funny. He said, because when he read the script,
if George was funny, it was George being George.
Yeah, because he said, when I read the script, I said, this isn't funny. This is the number one show on TV.
Well, I think that's the problem.
Funny.
I think it's the problem they had in the first season. The first season, nobody knew where to put it because it wasn't sitcom-y. It wasn't set up, deliver. It wasn't set up, deliver, set up, deliver. Because, think about it. You look at things like Full House is probably a very sitcom-y sitcom, right? But when the little girl walks into the room, she's going to say something smarmy, cute. To her dad or uncle, or cute. And that's, when one of the twins comes in, I mean, there was twins that played one character, but one of the twins walks in, one of the, the smallest comes in and says something as a baby, that they're going to grow up to be some kind of mogul worth $200 billion.
No, but I think like for Suits and Lincoln Lawyer, not that they're not really good actors, but that writing is superb.
You know what
How
the
they come
guys
up with all of it,
in the other room are telling me, so Alan and Ron have been telling me about Landman, which is being filmed the next season is being filmed right now.
Yeah.
Just a few miles from our studio, not far, about a 30-minute drive from our studio.
That's another one that's coming up.
And so it's the first, is it one season or two that's out, Alan? Is it one? They're making two right now. And the guys have been telling me, you got to watch it, you got to watch it, you got to watch it. And, that's something to me. First of all, I love it when I know the scenery, surrounding, any movie, if I'm familiar with the scenery. That always, I think for anybody, it's like, oh, I've been there. Let's see here. What was it? The one about the Highwaymen. It's a Netflix movie. You got to see this if you get Netflix. But about the hunting and eventual killing of Bonnie and Clyde was filmed, very close to where my grandparents were as a kid, and also in part on my cousin's land. And, so you always, I'm always looking for things that look familiar, that kind of thing. But the storyline has to also be great. And they've been telling me that that it's what's his name from Yellowstone, the creator of,
Taylor Sheridan.
Taylor Sheridan.
I did see a clip because that's been coming up also on YouTube with Billy Bob Thornton, where he goes and meets with the cartel, and they're like trying to intimidate him, and he basically intimidates them back, saying, basically, we're big oil. You can't beat us. And they agree that they can't. It was just, now I don't know how realistic that was, but it was fascinating. It was, and then then they all leave, and they got a hood on. He takes the hood off. He was like, but he was like, he was like, basically, they were threatening him. He's like, you can't beat us. Whether I'm dead or not, you can't beat us. We're oil. You can't.
Right.
There's no way you can beat us. You know how many trillions of dollars we have? You guys may be dealing in billions. We're dealing in It was a great scene.
Well, by the way, the character makes a great point. Not everybody uses drugs in terms of the cartels, but everybody in the world needs oil.
Exactly.
Wow. All right.
So we started this with happy 20th anniversary to us.
Yeah, now we're on to the TV shows we're going to watch at some point in our life, maybe.
Well, we can do whatever we want.
Why not?
It's and an anniversary. The anniversary shows you can do whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody
it's
wanted
our party.
Nobody wanted to come in and congratulate us.
Right, exactly.
Nobody brought us cake.
Right. It's our party. We'll cry if we want to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Once a roadside inspection is completed, the officer will close it out, which involves the officer writing or typing up the report. The more the officer found during the inspection, the longer this will take. If violations were discovered, most officers, as a courtesy, will explain the violations to the driver. If there were any out-of-service violations, the officer will normally explain what must be done to get the out-of-service order lifted. Drivers need to be very attentive during this part of the inspection. The driver also needs to read and understand the complete inspection report. After receiving the inspection report, the driver has 24 hours to get the roadside inspection report to the motor carrier. If the driver will not be returning to a company facility within the next 24 hours, the driver needs to know to get it on the way to you via email, mail, or fax within 24 hours. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, after Biden came out about the auto pen,
Yeah.
I didn't expect this from thehill.com. We'll have this coming up following the bottom of the hour.
Okay.
Democrats say Biden needs to quit taking the GOP bait. It was on the auto pen. Yeah. If he had something to maybe say about Medicaid or the big, beautiful bill, but well, why is he? Because he's making himself look bad.
Exactly.
And it's funny.
And Biden doesn't care. I mean, thinking, this idea that, it's, look, he doesn't care about his legacy. They don't care about his legacy. They just want him to shut up. The left just, stop talking, please. Don't say anything. But something tells me he'll continue to respond the way he's responding.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. This from the College Fix. A recent survey found that 1 in 4 hiring managers say recent grads are unprepared for the workforce, and 1 in 8 managers are planning to avoid hiring them in 2025. The main reasons for this are lack of preparation, a so-so work ethic, and a sense of entitlement among grads, according to the survey. 24% of hiring managers believe recent college graduates are unprepared for the workforce, while 33% say a lack of work ethic, and 29% view them as entitled. Additionally, 27% feel recent graduates are easily offended, and 25% say They don't respond well to feedback. Hey, let me see your resume. You suck.
And 922% of them are bad at math.
Well, that's the main hurdles the 2025 graduating class face are hiring uncertainty surrounding AI, automation, tariffs in entry-level positions, and degrees that have not kept pace with the changing landscape.
Ooh,
Could you imagine
interesting.
if somebody walked in and just said, look, my degree is in gender studies and DEI.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we don't. Bye. Okay. So here's something interesting. One of the key people at Amazon, this goes back several months, but he was in an online meeting and he was telling people that work at other people that work at Amazon, at some point, knowing how to code won't be one of the key skills that we're looking for because of AI. Now, I don't have the information in front of me as to how that's going to change, but there's no doubt it is going to change. So imagine that you went in thinking, okay, you go into college and, all right, I'm gonna do what Joe Biden said. I'm going to learn to code. And you come out 4 short years later, and with a computer science degree, and then they tell you, yeah, within the next few years, because that's what this executive at Amazon was saying, that it won't be long before AI is doing the coding. So we won't need humans basically doing that task. So you go spend all that money learning to do that. Now, I'd still say if you've got a computer science degree or anything in that realm, you're probably going to be in good shape. But you may have had a certain job in mind, and by the time you get out on the street after graduation, it changes drastically. Elon Musk posted, I don't know, about a week ago, that the advancement of the rate of advancement of AI is astonishing. I forget exactly how he phrased it, but it's accelerating at incredible rates. Well, I think we all know that's the case. By the way, you just have to be the consumer of any digital product to know that. I've been watching Bigfoot videos on YouTube. It's an AI Bigfoot, and he's telling you what he does out in the woods. And it's animation, and it looks pretty good for where AI was even just a year ago. The Trump videos, Trump is a Viking or whatever. The baby videos, baby Trump, baby Ted Cruz, baby J.D. Vance. These videos are hilarious. But if you just look at the advancement of AI in the creative realm and how far it's come in the last year alone, then you could probably put that into perspective for anybody who might do that for a living. It's like, because I don't even know where you go to. Let's say you want to be a key programmer in terms of AI, right? Mm-hmm. That you want to be on the cutting edge of AI and whatever those roles are going to be. How much is the advancement of AI changing what those roles are going to be on the fly? You may go in again to college if you're talking about a 4-year degree. Well, in today's world, that's light years. 4 years ago, AI compared to now AI, forget it. 4 years from now? So if you're in college or just going to college, just entering college, I don't know what it will look like. I don't think they do. And So now apply that to any part of the economy. We were talking about the other day, Mike Rowe making the point in much better fashion than we've done it, but we did a similar point that we have made, and that is we're going to need humans to build the infrastructure to facilitate the growth of AI and the support of AI and what all of that is going to take. It's going to take, first of all, tremendous amounts of energy, but the facilities, the data centers that are going to be required for all of that, the energy to run the data centers has to come from somewhere, and solar and wind won't get that done. And so there will be a big expansion, but there will only be an expansion to the extent that humans are available to do those necessary roles that Mike pointed out and things we've talked about. You're going to have to have people fulfilling those jobs. And as he points out too, you need electricians, you need plumbers, you're going to need everybody. It's going to require a pretty big growth in jobs and expansion in the types of jobs that are the number of jobs that's going to be needed for all of that. And the question is, do we have the humans?
It was interesting, when Mike Rowe was saying that they've got to market these jobs as if these are jobs that you should want. And I thought that was interesting because I read it yesterday and just sort of skimmed over it, and I thought about it later on when he said that. And I thought to myself, in 2025, can you market technical jobs where you get yourself dirty in a way that will appeal to young people? Now, when I had my college degree when I went and became a machinist. Now, again, my father might have been unique in the fact that when I was 14 years old, he told me you better be good at 3 or 4 different things.
Yeah.
And my father, when he said, you need a trade. My father wasn't a trader or college. He said, know a trade and go to college. He wanted, you cover your bases across the board, which I did, which was tremendously helpful. In fact, I was just looking a little while ago because I was trying to see AI when it came to machining. I was amazed at how many manual machinists there still are jobs out there right now. Manual.
Yeah.
Now, when I stopped being, let me see, CNC was really coming in 81 and 82, and I was out.
It'd be 1981.
Yes, 1981. Right, exactly. CNC did not exist in 1881. But, the CNC, which is the computerized, I ran NC, they were still computerized, but they ran those tapes. You had computer tapes that you put into your machine.
Right.
When 81, 82 was when they had, especially with lathes, they were coming in with the CNC lathes at that point. And I assumed, because I was more into, not that I ran a CNC lathe, but I also ran internal grinders, ODs, IDs, whatever. All sorts of grinders I ran, even though I loved the internal grinder the most. I just had a knack at it.
Who doesn't?
And very small tolerances too, which I loved doing it.
Yeah.
It was actually a very, very it was my favorite job as being a machinist. I also ran a surface grinder. I'll never forget I got hired at my brother's company because they just, you're a legacy.
Yeah.
You're in. What they figured was, what they were doing was, if you were a good machinist and your brother needed a job, they hired you because they figured machining was in your family. Therefore, you were quite good at it.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't as good as my brother, and I didn't know that, but I went in and I'll never forget. And they said, we're going to start you on a surface grinder. Well, you've seen the surface grinders, right?
Oh, yeah.
Small tables, 2 feet across, little magnet. You put the part on, right? Yep. You got a small, maybe, I don't know, what's that, a 7-8 inch diameter wheel, and you skim across it, right?
Yeah, right.
And I went, it's going to be a piece of cake. Any idiot can run a surface grinder. And no. And my grandfather had one in his shop down the street, one of the small things.
Yeah, right.
This thing The table was 25 feet long. The magnet was 20 feet long. Cranes would bring these huge pieces of metal and drop them down on the magnet. You had to make sure everything had to be clean. The bottom of this huge casting, that because we made compressors for Navy ships. You had to make sure it was clean before it hit the surface of the magnet. Then you'd clean off the magnet because you can't have any dirt beneath it. Otherwise, you don't get the clean grind on the top of it. And this great big crane comes over, and I don't know how heavy it was, thousands of pounds. They put it down, and they said only one problem. Got this huge grinding wheel, Eric, and the machine would go. The machine was from the 1950s.
Yeah.
And this was in the 80s. And this machine was, they'd say, by the way, once in a while, the entire assembly with your grinding wheel might drop an inch.
Watch your fingers.
Fingers, boom, explosion. I mean, this was a wheel. The diameter of the wheel was, probably like this, 5 feet across.
Right.
And this huge wheel.
So
spinning.
describe it. If it dropped an inch, what would be the impact?
Oh, it would blow up the entire wheel.
Okay.
And thousands of just.
Is it going to hit something?
Yes.
What's it going to hit?
Me.
That's your only concern.
Oh,
Should be your only concern at that point.
Oh, yeah. It would destroy the part.
Right.
But they said.
What happens as that sets off basically this entire wheel exploding? I mean, what does it hit?
Because it's going like this back and forth.
Right.
And it would just drop as it cleared. It would drop and then come and it would hit and try to take an inch off.
Oh, okay.
The top of the.
So it's just going to collide.
And just
boom.
Collide and just blow up.
Oh.
Boom. And
Did you ever see that happen?
Yeah, about once a week. And they were
okay. And I quit.
And how come you're scrapping these parts? Because you're giving me a damn machine that's 30 years old.
Right.
And it just drops. Well, when we need to fix it. Yeah. How long has it been doing it for? Couple of years.
Right. Wow.
They never ever fixed it. And I was there 2 years. Now, I only ran that machine probably for a month, and then I moved on to other machines. But they had those problems all the time. The machinery was so ancient where it would just. I had a couple of lathes that messed up one time. The tool, it would instead of just taking a very small thing off the rotating, whatever the part was rotating, and it would go in like a half inch and it would blow up the entire thing.
Oh,
and I had a huge piston rod. I mean, this 20 feet long piston rod, and I could tell it wasn't running right, and I wouldn't run it. And they said, "You got to run it. We'll fire you." And I said, "You run it." And they did, and it blew up in their faces and landed at their feet. And they said, "Shut it down, McNamara, you're not fired." Oh, that was fun. But yeah, I'm just wondering about how much of it's CNC today and how much manual. A lot of machinist jobs out there, though, from what I can see.
Oh, yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today because our show ends in an hour. And if you can't listen to the entire show or you miss parts of it, you would like to listen to it, well, at the end of the show, the whole show's recorded and it becomes our podcast. You can listen when and where you choose. And if for some reason you can't listen to one of our great radio stations overnight for some reason, you can always stream us live on our Red Eye Radio app where we stream all 5 hours. Democrats telling Biden to shut up. Coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.